Ko hikurangi te maunga, ko waiapu te awa, ko horauta te waka, ko hinipari te marae, ko naitane te hapu, ko Ngāti Parau te iwi, ko Francesca taku ingoa. My name is Frankie. Tēnā koutou, I'm Francesca Tangairi. Kia ora and welcome to our Kōrero for a Change, a webinar series brought to you by Access Matters Aotearoa Trust. A big thank you to our funders who make this series possible: Spectrum Foundation, Foundation North, J.R. Mackenzie Trust, and Whaikaha, the Ministry of Disabled People. We'd also like to recognise our friends at People First New Zealand for their valuable support in creating our Easy Read program. Today's focus is on justice. We'll be exploring the role of the justice system in building inclusion and belonging for disabled people. We've invited thought leaders, academics, experts in deaf, neurodivergent and disabled people, tangata whaikaha Māori and whānau hoa, to join us in having some courageous conversations about ableism and the justice system and what needs to change. Before we get started, just a quick few housekeeping notes. After each panel, you'll have a chance to ask questions. Just use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen or type them in. If you need to ask your question by speaking or signing, please use the raise hand function and our team will enable your audio and video. Captions are available in two ways. Click on the captions button at the bottom of your Zoom screen or use the live transcript link we've just popped into the chat. Lastly, this webinar is being recorded and will be made publicly available on the Access Matters website. By staying with us, you're giving your consent to be recorded. I would now like to welcome us all in with a karakia. Mi inoi tātou, let us pray. Mā te whakapono, mā te tūmanako, mā te titiro, mā te whakarongo, mā te mahi tahi, mā te whakamomori, mā te aroha, ka taia I mātou. By believing and trusting, by having faith, by looking and searching, by listening and hearing, by working and striving together, by sheer desire and determination, by all done with love, we will succeed. Let's welcome our first speaker, Dr. Huhana Hiki, who is an academic and a disability lawyer.
Thank you. Kia ora koutou. Morena, everybody. I'm sure that the cold air is keeping us awake quite well. I'm going to talk to you today about ableism in the legal system. My background is as a lawyer for 25 years. I've sat on the Human Rights Review Tribunal for 15 years, just retired. Ableism goes beyond the work I was able to do. It affects all of us, whether we are physically disabled, we are intellectually disabled, or we have a sensory impairment, visual, or we are deaf. Ableism is alive and well in our system. So how do we define it? Ableism in Aotearoa has no direct definition, but it aligns with the prohibited grounds of discrimination under the Human Rights Act, Section 21(1)(h), which prohibits discrimination based on disability that includes physical, sensory, psychiatric, intellectual, and neurological. The New Zealand Bill of Rights Act, Section 19, affirms to us the right of freedom from discrimination. The UN Convention on the Rights of Disabilities, ratified by New Zealand in 2008, obligates the state to eliminate discrimination and promote full inclusion in all aspects of life, including equal access to justice. Ableism occurs when legal, procedural, or institutional barriers create barriers for disabled, not just through overt exclusion, but through systemic inaccessibility, bias, and lack of reasonable accommodation. We see an example of that in our housing, state housing. Only 3% of all houses in Aotearoa are accessible of some kind, but we have over 25% of the population. And yes, I worked a lot with disabled prisoners and got over 20 of them out of Waikeria. Only one in this time has reoffended. And a lot of it comes down to our processes. So in the justice system, and I know I've only got a short time, so I'll try and rush it, but my document's available for everyone. You have inaccessible court processes. So you may not have an interpreter or alternative communication. I was a communicator at Manukau courts, or accessible information for blind or intellectually disabled, or even in deaf language where the language skill is different and communicating is slightly different. There's assumptions of incompetence. You look at our IDCCNR legislation that lets intellectually disabled be incarcerated in a different way. However, no one is trained to do this. The lawyers aren't trained. The judges aren't trained. And there's a lot of assumptions placed when we find someone who's been guilty but lacks capacity. There's a lot of assumptions around what that means. And they do receive disproportionately a lot of a harder punishment than if they were not disabled and went through the mainstream judicial system. So there's a lack of disability awareness and training. I've outlined that. Barriers to legal representation and advocacy. You get what you're given if you haven't got the money. And sometimes they have no background in disability and they don't serve us well. Discriminatory sentencing and detention. Definitely different for disabled people than non-disabled, in that they often receive harsher sentences because of the assumptions around them. Ableism is subtle but systemic in our judicial system. It denies disabled people full participation, and it fails to provide necessary accommodations, relies on stereotypes, and it harms disproportionately Māori disabled. One example, I went to parole board and I was representing a physically disabled client. Now, he was a bit naughty. He was a recidivist offender before he was disabled, but he ended up getting a pressure sore because he wouldn't let them turn him in his bed at night to go on his stomach because, as he said, he would be raped. So the pressure sore went to the bone. The nurses are not always registered at the penal system within there, and they practice. With this man, he finally ended up in hospital. He had to go to a parole hearing to see whether he should be put back in. He was still carrying the pump to clean the pressure sore. It was that bad. And in the end, the parole board released him. But this is the beauty and the cleverness of the correction system, in that next time he went in, he was a lifetime career crim. They made sure he had the right bed, the right supports, and ensured that he could do his sentence without punishment that goes beyond, it goes into torture for a lot of disabled. We have over 85% of untreated mental health issues within the judicial system, many of them neurodiverse. Many of them also have hearing issues. Many have other cognitive behavioural impairments, and there is no system within our penal system which understands that and helps them towards it. They often don't get access to psychological help because of the shortage of those people that need to be able to provide that. I've had young people with frontal lobe damage who will never change, going to prison all the time because they're fooled by people that get them to do things and they do them just to be their friends. Beautiful people, but they keep going into jail because they keep missing that point because they have no ability for impulse control. I've had one last example. I had a young man. Now he'd done drugs and he was stealing for that. He ended up inside. But when I met him, it was after he'd been tortured for 5 days when the nurses refused to let him see a doctor. It turned out he had a twisted testicle. By the time he got to the doctor, it was too late, had to be amputated. And that hurt that man for the rest of his life. He's not been back. He's out of prison because I set up a relief program that supported him on the outside, and he's been able to handle that. But he had to keep fighting inside because he was being teased and beaten for not being a real man anymore. So there's a lot of things that happen inside that we really need a disability focus on because a lot of them need that care and treatment. Now, I do want to say this before I finish. I grew up around prisons. My father was a prison officer. He was one of the first that went into Paremaremo and used to clean up the riots and that. He also went to night school and he became a social worker and worked with ex-prisoners until he passed away. Now, there are good corrections officers there. It's not often them, it's the system. It is a system that isn't geared towards the neurodiverse needs of disabled. It's a system that isn't geared towards a lot of that. So I'll leave it at that because I think that then opens up for further kōrero. And I'm looking forward to hearing Tanya Thomas, who worked within Te Rōpū Taurima, which was a forensic centre for people that have been held under the IDCCNR and the Mental Health Act. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Dr. Hu. Our next speaker is Warren Forster. Warren is a barrister and researcher working with ACC Advocacy Services. He is one of the authors of the research Making New Zealand Accessible, a design for effective accessibility legislation. Warren will be speaking on Making New Zealand Accessible, a design for effective accessible legislation.
Kia ora koutou katoa, ko Warren Forster tōku ingoa. Before I jump into that, I just want to speak to the point that Dr. Hu has just made, which is about systemic barriers. This morning on the 8 o'clock news, there's a story about ACC not wanting to tell 100,000 New Zealanders with sensitive claims that they might be entitled to weekly compensation dating back years or decades. Their reason is that it might upset people. That there is an acknowledgement of the complete systemic failure and the barriers that exist because the system that's meant to help injured New Zealanders, including those who've been abused in care, for example, or have other covered sensitive claims, the very system that's meant to help people is worried it might upset people when they understand that they have to go through assessments to be entitled. So they're not going to tell anyone. They're only going to tell 450 people. So that's acknowledgement there from the state that the systems don't work. I want to talk about some research that we've done. We looked at one very simple idea, and that's when it comes to accessibility, disabled people are not the problem. Barriers are the problem. So how can we get everyone, including disabled people, who know how to solve these problems or what we can do to remove these barriers, how do we get everyone working together to do this? So right now, barriers exist in every aspect of our life, in buildings and transport, in technology and information, in services and public spaces, in government and the private sector, in classrooms and courtrooms. These barriers are built into our system, and when they first were built in, it was often unintentional. But they remain there now because our political leaders have made a deliberate decision not to take action and remove them. In this way, maintaining these barriers and not implementing legislation is a deliberate decision. It denies disabled people the same rights and responsibilities as others. It disempowers people. So we asked, how can we systemically identify and remove these barriers? And the answer is clear. We need effective accessibility legislation that assigns responsibility to an independent regulator with powers to develop and, if necessary, or where necessary, enforce accessibility standards. We need a way to provide a notification system so that anyone can report disabling experiences, which is where the barriers interact with their disability and stop something happening. So people don't need to know the law, they don't need to know the standards, they just need to say, this experience was disabling, it stopped me doing something, here's a barrier. A system that can create enforceable and non-enforceable standards. The reason that we think that we can start with non-enforceable standards is there's a whole lot of people, whole groups of organisations, like the one Access Matters here today, who can help, saying, here's what good looks like. And if we can start with that, and we can get people on board through having consensus and agreement on what we can do, then great, let's make that work really quickly, because it will be quicker to get voluntary standards in place for people that want to change and want things to be accessible and want to remove barriers. And then we can show everyone how easy it actually is and how much money ultimately it will save our society if we start removing these barriers at a systemic level. We need a process for consultation so that disabled people, tangata whaikaha Māori, businesses and the public can be involved in developing and implementing standards and identifying where they are not met. And that commits to progressive realisation. So we're going to start now and we're going to keep improving. We've got a way to monitor removal of barriers and build reviews into the system. So that was our proposal. It's grounded in the United Nations Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities, and it honours Te Tiriti o Waitangi. It builds on the work that's been done for decades by incredible advocates here in Aotearoa New Zealand, and it learns from international best practice. It's about moving accessibility out of the realm of goodwill and into the rule of law, so that ultimately removing barriers becomes a legal obligation. Legislation alone can't fix this, though. It will not create an Aotearoa that's accessible. We need cultural change. We need political courage and leadership, and we need partnerships. We have to challenge the status quo, because the way things have always been done is exactly why people face these barriers today. And the message from our research is very simple. If we design a system that works, it will benefit everyone. Accessibility improves safety, usability, and inclusion for all New Zealanders, now and in generations to come. We have a blueprint, we have the evidence. The question is, can we build momentum, and will we act? Thank you.
We really appreciate the insights you shared, Warren. Warren will be staying on to join us on our first panel, The Deciders. This kōrero will be moderated by our first speaker, Dr. Huhana Hiki. Welcome back, Dr. Hu.
Gosh, that was quick. Hang on. I wasn't quite that ready yet. Sorry. Okay, well, we've talked about how ableism, where am I? We've talked about how ableism works. I'm just trying to find the panelists. Are they all here? You're all ready to go? Great. Let's bring the panel on. Kia ora, that's Juanita. How are you? I would love to hear you introduce yourself, Juanita. Warren Forster. He's amazing, this dude. And that's Andrew, one of the corrections. Great. We need to hear from corrections. I know they've done a lot of work towards making changes, so let's hear it. Very different to when my father was working in the prison system. So this is our team. And I'm wondering if we should start with, sorry, I'm still trying to find all my bits. Here we go. Warren, Juanita, Superintendent Andrew Mortimer. You have got 5 minutes each, and I'm wondering if you could have an initial statement addressing the question, what is the role of justice in the process of inclusion and belonging of people with disabilities? So I guess it's really asking, how is disability catered for within the correction system if they end up in there? If you do the crime, you've got to do the time. But how effective is it for disabled? Is it doing the time, or is it being tortured in the time?
Ngā mihi nui, Dr. Who. I think I'm going to go first. Andrew's still got his mute button on. So, mauri ora ki a tātou. Ia ko anō te ngākau ko tai mai au I tēnei rā, I runga I te reo kāranga. Ko wai au, ko tainui te waka, ko moihau te maunga, ko waihau te aua, ko Ngāti Maru te iwi, no hauraki ahau. Ko Nita Ryan tōku ingoa, he kai whakahaere mātua paiora ki Arapautama tōku tūranga mahi. So at Arapautama Department of Corrections, our paiora service is responsible for rehabilitation, health services and disability services. And just a little bit about me, I am a 50-year-old wahine of Māori, Scottish and Irish descent. I have got on a green top today. I've got long dark hair. I've got fair skin, and I've got a pair of glasses with kind of a pink reddish rim to them. I'd like to start with a bit of context about some of the services that we offer that's of relevance to this kaupapa and speaks to some of the issues, concerns and opportunities that Dr. Hu has already covered in her opening remarks. People do often enter our prisons with complex and unmet needs. For this reason, every new person to our prisons undergoes an initial assessment, which includes our health staff assessing their health, their disability support needs, which includes any mental health needs they have, whether they require referral to a prison medical officer, a dentist, allied health practitioner, or one of our social workers for disabled and older people, or our prison-based mental health services. We work hard to ensure people in prison receive the rehabilitation and reintegration support they need to be able to re-enter our communities with better and brighter prospects, which means, amongst other things, not circling back into our system. While corrections is only one part of the wider justice system, and we do not decide who comes into our context, there is a particular piece of cross-agency work we are doing to support a more joined-up systems approach, and I'll speak to this briefly now. And this is our Specialist Pathways Program team, which is leading cross-agency collaboration to support people with suspected or diagnosed intellectual disabilities and or acute mental health needs to have greater and more timely access to the support they need and in the most appropriate context to meet them, dedicated to systemic improvement and the needs of tangata whaikaha Māori and disabled people in our prisons. We have our Disability Action Plan, which we launched in 2023, and an Ageing Well Action Plan, which we also launched the same year. These are both publicly available, and we are working through key actions on both. However, given the primary question asked for the webinar, I'll provide an overview of the role we play as corrections within the justice system and working to promote inclusion and belonging for people with disability access needs. Firstly, we work collaboratively across the justice and health systems to identify gaps, barriers, and address ableism. An example of this is the specialist pathway work I briefly mentioned just before. We are working harder to listen to the experiences of tangata whaikaha Māori and disabled people in their whānau who have shared their experiences with us, which helps shape up our Disability Action Plan. We engage with external stakeholders such as CCS Disability Action, the New Zealand Disability Support Network, and the IHC, all of whom have tangata whaikaha Māori and disabled people as part of their respective governance and service users, as well as staff members. We've worked to honour these experience and this expertise by having this help shape up the Disability Action Plan and the key areas within this, as well as helping us to continue to adjust our policies and practices. We utilise our disability data collection for understanding the needs of tangata whaikaha Māori and disabled people in prisons and the intersectional impacts. We have used the Washington Group short set questions in our health screening assessments, including when people first enter our prisons. Anyone who has an answer that says they cannot do it at all are referred to our social worker, disability and older persons for a rapid review and recommendations about how our health and frontline staff can work with them to ensure their needs are best met. We've also undertaken work to better understand the cognitive abilities of people in prison. We've commissioned a study which is providing insights into the cognitive strengths and weaknesses of a representative sample of people in our prisons. The study has been completed, and we're currently exploring the best ways to communicate its findings to people in prison, staff and the wider public, and we'll aim to use the outcomes from the study to inform correctional operational settings and practice. We're working alongside All Is for All, which is an all-disabled-led organisation, to conduct interviews and focus groups, again to re-engage with tangata whaikaha Māori and disabled people to gain insights into their experiences in our prisons. Findings from this mahi will go on to inform our disability awareness training, policies and practices. Being able to identify tangata whaikaha Māori and disabled people when they enter our prisons has helped us to strengthen our ability to ensure their needs are met and to provide speciality practice advice, support and release planning, particularly through the relatively new roles we've established of our social workers, disabled people and older people. We continue to progress to work...
Oh, sorry, Juanita, we're getting over on time here. Can we wind up and then we'll get on to Andrew?
Sure.
Sorry,
thing.
5 minutes.
Sure
Apologies.
No worries. No, that's all good. I think that this is the last thing for me is that we are really doing the best that we are working hard to do better, and we know we must do better. We can't do it alone, and we must do it with others. Ka noi te mihi ki a koutou.
Kia ora, thank you for that. That was awesome. Actually, it gave me some new insights. It's good to see things are changing. Kia ora, Andrew. I wonder if you'd like to go next.
Morning, thank you, Dr. Hu, and thank you for the opportunity to represent New Zealand Police on this webinar today. It's great to be with you.
Just a quick reminder, slow down for our interpreters slightly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's great to be with you all today. A tēnā koutou, ko Taranaki te maunga, ko waiwai kaho te awa, ko Taranaki te iwi, ko Kurahapu te waka, tēnei huriri no Ngāti Rora, ko Andrew Mortimer tōku ingoa. So I am Andrew Mortimer and I am the Director or National Manager of Prevention at Police National Headquarters in Wellington. My portfolio is quite varied and includes the National Lead for Family Harm, Youth, Alcohol, Mental Health, and also Community Inclusion, which is the role that police has with our diverse sectors in our community in terms of our outward-facing role as an organisation. So I'm going to speak to you today on a few minutes around police's role in the justice system. We know from the New Zealand Crime and Victims Survey that disabled people are on average 10% more likely to be a victim of crime and are disproportionately represented in youth and prison facilities, with estimates of disability among OT and corrections facilities as high as 60 to 80%. It is therefore needs to be a priority to respond and take a leading role in promoting inclusion and belonging for people with disabilities and access needs across all stages in the justice process, including police. Police is looking at ways it can influence better outcomes for disabled people. But it's not just about promoting inclusion and belonging. It's about demonstrating our commitment to disability communities. Police has been working with leaders from disability community groups for the past 2 years to develop a disability roadmap for our organisation. The roadmap provides a structure and framework that sets out what police hopes to achieve over the next 3 to 5 years, working alongside disability communities and partners in the justice sector. And it has 16 outcomes. The first priority was to establish a disability advisory group. For us, it's not just about engagement. For police, our role is about preventing crime and harm by enforcing the law, targeting and apprehending offenders, and providing a quality priority service to victims. For us as police to achieve this, it is essential that we have the trust and confidence of the deaf, neurodivergent, and disability communities. As such, we need to provide inclusive systems and processes that are equitable and accessible. As part of the roadmap, we are looking at ways in which we can do this. This includes processes, documents, and physically accessible stations. Staff training is an essential element of this process too. For police to provide an inclusive system, we need to train and support our 16,000 staff so they have the appropriate awareness to provide inclusive services to disabled people so that disabled people have access and understanding and that we can address their needs. For our staff, training is a priority. This is an opportunity to assist our staff improve how they communicate and engage with disabled, deaf, and neurodiverse communities, their family and whānau. We started with our recruits at Police College, but we're actively working with our frontline staff to put in place and embed training across the country. We're also developing other ways to increase and improve our staff training, including neurodiversity training. We are taking multiple approaches to our training so that we can reach our staff of 16,000, including over 10,000 constabulary staff who work in a 24/7 roster system across the country. We're also working in terms of how we can improve the way that we record information so that we can be more responsive to the needs of our community. We're also working with other agencies in relation to drafting the disability strategy and action plans. We are looking at our resources to see how we can improve accessibility, and we're ensuring that resources and tools are available to our staff so that they have these readily available for them when they need them. Thank you, Dr. Hu, for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. It's really quite heartening to hear of the changes, and I've been involved for over 20 years with prisoners, and it's kind of nice to know that disability is no longer just ignored and dismissed and kind of worked around, but actively enforced. Warren, we've got you now.
Thank you. You've all heard from me already, so I'll try and keep it short. The starting point for part of this discussion is the United Nations Convention on Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And I just want to read out, and I'm paraphrasing the first article or the first part of Article 13. State parties, so that's New Zealand, shall ensure effective access to justice for persons with disabilities on an equal basis with others in all legal proceedings, including investigative and preliminary stages. Now, the question is, has New Zealand ensured this? So it's many years ago, I can't even remember, probably 18 years ago that we were in Parliament when New Zealand passed a law to make this happen. And 18 years later, 19 years later, I would say it hasn't turned into reality. And it's wonderful to hear the discussions from the police and from corrections, because someone asked a question, can we go to the UN and enforce this? Now, the answer is maybe. I actually went to the UN in 2014 about access to justice in the ACC system. And 11 years later, after getting recommendations and probably 13 ACC ministers, we've still had no change. So I think we need to caution ourselves about the most effective way to bring these things to life. And I think we need to consider how we can support the work that Andrew and Juanita are doing to bring about change. And it's not that we shouldn't go to the UN, and it's not that we shouldn't aspire to this goal of effective access to justice on an equal basis with others. We have to think, what is the most effective way for us to bring about that change, which is where accessibility standards and working together so that everyone has a common understanding of what we're trying to do will help. And I think that we need to remember that disabled people are on all sides of the criminal justice system, and that they're victims, they're offenders, but what they are not generally is judges, lawyers, and the people that make that system operate. And it's not to say that that means that people in that system don't care, are not empathetic, don't want to change, but we may need to help bring about that change collectively. And that's where I say a set of standards helps, when we can all work together to do that. And ultimately, what I'd love to see is a whole group of young disabled lawyers getting through law school, coming into courts, effectively advocating for disabled people from that position of lived experience. Now, I've worked extensively in the past with many other people involved today. But I just want to shout out to Dr. Bridget Murphy-Veach, who can talk later about some of the other work we've done that's slowly coming into the public arena. But together we can make change. At one end of that is going to the UN and getting recommendations. And the other end of it is working on the ground to actually bring about change more quickly. And that's where standards that we can develop together and implement means that we can start moving this conversation forward quickly, rather than waiting 11 years for the government to maybe do what the UN told them to do in 2014. So I just want to end by challenging us collectively to think about what's the most effective way to bring about the change that we all want to see. Thank you.
Thank you. And you're absolutely spot on. Okay, we've actually got a mountain of questions in the Q&A. I'd really encourage Juanita and Andrew, if you could, and Warren, if you could all answer those ones that you can relate to, because we can't answer them all now. But we do have 3 questions from one of our deaf members that is joining here. And I'm wondering if we can get those questions up now. I know she wanted to answer them herself. Are we still doing that, Kimberly? Yeah, I think it was Joanne.
She's not put her hands up yet, so we'll just go through the Q&A.
Okay. Well, the Q&A, I'm now confused, sorry. I thought we were going to do Joanne's questions.
Yes, sorry, Julianne is speaking here.
Yeah.
We are promoting Joanne as a panelist, and
okay,
we will enable her to pose her question. So she's already a panelist.
Yep, she's ready, she said.
Yeah, I'm just going to spotlight her. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good to go, Joanne.
Thank you. In your areas of responsibility, corrections, police, or ACC, how are you ensuring the consistent availability of high-quality NZSL interpreters at all crucial touchpoints, such as arrest, bail hearings, custodian interactions, and tribunal processes? And that's to all of you.
I'm happy to go first on that one, Joe. Firstly, thanks for your question. So from a police perspective, we have available to our staff contacts for interpreters and specialised services should they need to engage them as part of the process, whether it's speaking with a victim or a suspect. One of the things that we are currently working on as part of our disability roadmap is some work around the Bill of Rights and other forms that we have available within the custodial environment. We recognise that there's some work that we can do there to improve that part of our system, and it's currently in action captured within our action plan to work in that and make that more accessible for those people. We are, however, and I think this would be fair for corrections as well, and Janita spoke about it in her presentation, understanding the needs of people that we engage with in terms of their needs, whether they're diagnosed or undiagnosed. This is really important because our staff cannot predict what those are, and so we need to have that information available to us, and we would encourage people to let us know what their needs are or if they need support so that we can make that available to assist the processes.
Okay. Andrew, this is one for you concerning police, because you know there's a complete distrust between the deaf community and police. We avoid police at all costs if we can because of that history of mistreatment. What are you doing when, like myself, I'll use myself as an example, I contacted police call centre by relay asking for an interpreter to be set up so I could go into my local police station and make a report of harm done on the street and where injury was caused. Yet I was palmed off about 3 different people in that relay call. Then when it got to the community constable at that community station, he was not aware of that they have to provide interpreters for us deaf. And when it came down to the payment of it, he didn't have a clue what to do, and he said he needed to look into it. I was actually citing off human rights legislation, and I had iSign on the ready, but that billing of the interpreter's service, they don't have a clue what to do. And he said you have to look into it, and he never came back to me. Now, I've had that 3 or 4 times happen to me directly. So what has been done in that to ready your frontline staff and your station staff to be able to enable that to happen really quick, smartly?
So it's really unfortunate to hear about that, Joe, and I apologise for your experience. One of the things that we are working on heavily at headquarters in terms of how we support across the system, we have to recognise we've got 16,000 staff, but one of our key roles that we have is supporting our staff across the country to understand what is available and what the responsibilities are for police in the system and how that works. Christine and the team that work in this area do a lot of work communicating with districts, communicating with 10-5, 111 and our emergency centre to make sure that we can provide and that our staff have readily available access points. So I would like to think that this is a progression that police is on to do better, and it's unfortunate to hear about circumstances such as you have experienced, but we are committed to learning from these and doing best that we possibly can to be better next time.
Is there a way that I can report? Is there a line or an email or one person contact that these can be reported to by our community?
Yeah, sure. So we would encourage non-urgent reporting of incidents through our 10-5 system, and that can be done through our website as well. And that system should give you the opportunity to clearly outline what your concerns are and also what your needs are, so that when staff contact you or pick up the file, then they can have available the support that you might be needing to help through that. And we always say to our staff as well, when we engage with districts on the front line, that the headquarters team are there. We hold the connections to a number of agencies and organisations, and we're here to support them as well and offer advice and support.
Thanks, Joanne. Juliana here speaking. Thank you. We just have another 18 questions in the Q&A, so if we can just give an opportunity for others.
Sure.
Thank you, Kapai.
There's a question I'd quite like to answer, which is what a percentage of offenders are offenders as a result of their disability? Now, this might sound controversial, but my view is that we have a system in New Zealand and in many other places in the world that criminalises neurodevelopmental impairment. So people whose brains work differently from others are on a journey, and that journey, if they don't get support and help they need, will often end up in the prison system. And I think in 30 years' time, 50 years' time, hopefully 10 years' time, but we'll look back and we'll say, like, we've got a system here that doesn't really work for people. And it's not to say that people aren't sort of committing the crime. They're doing the thing that gets them into trouble, that creates problems with the police, that gets them charged in courts and sentenced to imprisonment. It's not to say those things aren't being done, but the pathways into that and the things that the question is as a result of their disability. If I react to social cues differently, then I might respond in a particular way that's more likely to interact with the police and so on. And there's some real data on this that's coming out. But to answer the question, I would say a very high proportion of offenders are offending, and the reason that they're offending includes how they've interacted with people, what their learning's been like in school, how they've interacted when they've got into workplaces and other social situations. And we need to understand that a little bit better. But ultimately, if we look at the support we can put in place to help people before they get to that point of offending, we'll start disrupting those pathways. So great question, and hopefully one that we'll come back to in time. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Warren. It does raise an issue for a lot of our, and again, back to neurodiversity, a lot of our intellectually disabled, is the lack of respite and the lack of being able to support at a young age is creating this ongoing issue. We have one of our mokopuna who's an extremely aggressive, violent, autistic young man. And credit to the Northland Police. They have tried and tried and tried. But he's going to end up in youth facilities soon. He's broken his mother's bones multiple times. And yet he's also a loving man as well, young lad. But the problem is he fits within this spectrum where there's violence, where there's anger, and they can't control. We still have a lot that needs to be done in the disability community in order to be able to prevent them going further into our judicial system. But we're getting there, and it's happening slowly. You've got a mountain of questions to answer in the Q&A, and there's some very good ones. And hopefully, Joanne, and the ones asking, it would be really good. Just a bit of patience as we wade through them. There's a lot of interest in this topic today. We're now actually on time, so that's really good. Is there a final thing that any of you would like to say to this before we hand over to the next panel?
Just Dr. Hu, can I just answer the question from Adriana in relation to
Yes.
harassment? So good question. So one of my portfolios is family harm for New Zealand Police. I can say that the government is currently progressing stalking legislation directly in relation to family violence and family harm. The current legislation contained within the Crimes Act is not necessarily helpful in relation to this part of it. So stalking is currently in the House at the moment. And I would anticipate that we will see some change there. Secondly, there's a question here about lived experience and training for our staff. One of the key changes that the Police College made for recruit training as part of the 20-week program is they now have a Huia Day, where groups from within the community, individuals representing different ethnic groups and disability sector, come into the college and sit and speak to groups of recruits, where the recruits can ask them questions and talk to them about their experiences so that we can improve and they can improve before they go out and graduate from police college and engage with our communities. So that's a really positive shift that we've made for our recruits, preparing them for the front line.
And maybe just from me, Joe, I'm really happy offline to share with you some of the work that we're trying to do to improve interpreting services in Aotearoa Department of Corrections and our prisons that I didn't speak to. I think overall the reflection from me is just the last point I made in my kōrero. We cannot, as corrections, do the best to support disabled people tangata whaikaha alone. We know we must work with others to do the best possible job for people returning to communities in a better state and with brighter prospects. We are genuinely interested in engaging with other agencies and individuals that are on that journey. So please do reach out. If you think that there is an opportunity for us to be able to work together to strengthen that kaupapa, but also, Dr. Hu, in terms of the questions here, should we be taking these away and providing written answers and sharing those back? Because there's lots there to unpack, and just wanting to make sure that we are responding to the wonderful questions that have been asked.
There are a lot of questions, and they're very good questions too, but they do need time to answer for some of them. So my suggestion is, if anybody wants to contact the team with the questions, and then maybe we can send them out to you and all of you and answer them. This is,
Sorry,
that
Julie,
would be fantastic.
Dr. Hu, Juliana here again.
Thank you.
What we can do and what we recommend is that as soon as you finish your panel, you can type the answers. So we have the questions answered today now. So as soon as we finish the panel, you can go through the questions that are within your scope and you can type the answer. That would be amazing. But we still have time for one more question, Dr. Hu.
We do. We do have time for one more question. Is there one burning one that you guys wanted to answer? Another one there, or shall I find one for you? There's so many.
There's a follow-up question to what I was saying earlier.
Yeah.
The point that I think is really, really important is that if we acknowledge that there's a pathway that people experience and that has a number of barriers along the way, our role when we're looking at systems of justice is how do we disrupt those pathways? How does it, when someone gets to Andrew's team, we can sort the problem out? When someone comes to Anita's team, that we can get the people the help they need. It's not about blaming a disability. That's the whole point. People experience disability. We need to identify the barriers so that we can disrupt those pathways. That's the critical thing collectively that I think we need to do. And the final thing, I just need to be clear, I'm not part of ACC. I'm completely independent from ACC. So some people misunderstood that. So just to be clear, I'm not speaking from ACC's perspective. I represent people in disputes with ACC, amongst many other things. So just to be clear about that. But a wonderful kōrero, and I'm hopeful that in time we can get together on identifying barriers and removing them and disrupting those pathways, because that's the way we're going to bring about systemic change. That's the thing that's going to make a difference for people, a real difference in their lives. Thank you.
Do you think that cultural reports like Section 27, I used to do those. We were part of a team. The judges liked what we did because we had a criminologist, sociologist, a psychologist, and 2 lawyers writing it together. And it really helped because we were able to diagnose and find more neurodiversity that wasn't even identified in the original reports, but they've gotten rid of them. And those reports I actually used a lot with disabled, especially when there was frontal lobe damage. I was able to use a lot of that to help the parole board or the courts understand the background to why they're offending, so they could work at preventing that offending. And it's sad that they've gone now, because those were not just cultural reports, but very good insights into background and the reason why that person was there, especially when we were discovering the mental health issues, the drug and alcohol issues, or the disability issues that were not part of the original, court case. I wonder if those reports would be wanted to come back to be able to provide a better system in the future for the outcomes for the clients involved or the prisoners. That's just something to review.
Dr. Hu, I certainly think that we've got to consider how we take a holistic understanding of the individual in front of us, and how the system and community come together so that we can understand what they're doing when they might be, what's brought them into a court context or some other context, and then what the best support and pathways, including accommodation and other needs, is. So there is absolutely a gap that has been identified that the system needs to think of. How do we better meet the needs of this individual and provide the court with the best possible advice on where this person's needs are best met and how.
Great. Good note to end on. Thank you, panel. You're fantastic. Panel 2 coming up.
Kara, we're a great panel. Let's welcome our second panel, the Thinkers. I'm pleased to introduce Kira Sherwood O'Regan, the National President for the Disabled People's Assembly, DPA, who will be moderating this kōrero. A friendly reminder, please say your name before speaking. This ensures blind and low vision participants know who is speaking throughout the discussion.
Ka pai. Kira speaking, tēnā koutou katoa, he uri tēnei no kaitahu, ka te māmoe, waitaha, ko Kira Sherwood O'Regan tēnei. So good morning, everyone. My name's Kira Sherwood O'Regan, as Frankie has kindly introduced. I'm a proudly disabled and neurodivergent wahine, or woman from Kaitahu, ka te māmoe and Waitaha. And as was mentioned, by virtue of my role as National President at DPA, the Disabled Persons Assembly, I'm really honoured to be moderating the second panel that we have for you this morning on justice. And this panel is going to be with our three thinkers. So what we have in store for you for the next hour or so is a panel with Dr. Bridget Murphin-Veitch, Dr. Michael Roguski, and also Dr. Lida Ayubi. Now, we've already heard from our deciders this morning, so to keep things moving, I'm going to introduce our thinkers, and I'll invite them one by one to give their initial 5-minute kōrero before we then go to the audience questions. And so, as Dr. Hu said earlier, ableism is really alive and well in our justice system. So the pātai, or the question that our thinkers are going to be responding to in their initial statement, is what is the role of justice in the process of inclusion and belonging of disabled people? So on that note, I'm very pleased to be firstly introducing Dr. Bridget Murphin-Veitch, Associate Professor and Director of the Donald Beasley Institute. Now, Dr. Murphin-Veitch, or Associate Professor Murphin-Veitch, became the Director of DBI, the Donald Beasley Institute, in 2007, and has been a member of their research team since 1994. She's a sociologist and has a strong interest in understanding the social lives of people with disabilities. She's really committed to initiating and achieving social change through her research, and I know certainly I've seen that come through with a lot of the DBI reports and much of her other mahi and work. I think she's a familiar face for a lot of us in the disability space. And her research covers a wide range of topics, but she's particularly focused on access to justice, parenting by people with a learning disability, and also well-being. So with that, I will hand over to you, Dr. Murphin-Veitch. Ngā marie.
Kia ora, Kira, thank you for that. And Bridget is just fine. So tēnā koutou katoa, I tipu aki ahau, I raro, I te tāwharo, o kai pai moka o Paparoa, I taha o te awa o Otatutu, ko te Murphin te whānau, kei Oti toku kai karanane, or Bridget Murphin-Veitch toka wikua. Hi everyone, it's great to be here today. I think I've been invited to be part of this thinker panel because I am a researcher who has been very privileged to be involved in many research studies and projects designed to promote disabled people's access to justice in its most broad and its more narrow sense. Over several decades, our research in this area has traversed topics as diverse as the impact of welfare guardianship on disabled people, the legal experiences of parents with a learning disability within the family court, people with the learning disabilities experiences of engaging with lawyers and judges, including their own recommendations for a more responsive legal system, neurodivergent young people's interactions with the criminal justice system at 4 critical points, something that Warren alluded to in his presentation earlier. And most recently, the exploration of equity and fairness in policing delivery from the perspective of both takata whaikaha, me whānau hawa, deaf and disabled people, and the police, particularly frontline personnel. All of this research shares some consistent and fundamental themes which consistently converge to highlight one key finding, that disabled people experience reduced or ineffective access to justice and the justice system. In the time that we've got today, it's impossible to unpack all the nuances to this consistent finding, but if I was able to pick the key driver of ineffective access to justice, it would be ableism, a topic that we've already touched on a couple of times, and Dr. Hu and you, Kira, have explained today. It is impossible to overestimate the extent to which ableism and its ugly sibling, disableism, negatively impact disabled people's interactions at all levels and junctures. While there's an increasing awareness and understanding of ableism, which is wonderful, disableism, the overt discrimination or different treatment on the basis of a person's disability or access need still remains an under-recognised part of our legislative framework, policies and procedures. Dr. Hu highlighted the IDCCR Act, for example. There is a little bit of unpacking to do there. But both ableism and disableism work in ways that disadvantage disabled victims, complainants and defendants, disabled people across the system. The second important finding that I want to highlight today is that across all of this inclusive and disabled-led research, disabled people have consistently identified how the justice system could and should transform to achieve more equitable access for all. And again, there isn't time to go into all of the recommendations, but as you can imagine, those recommendations generally emphasise the need for transformed legislation, policies, processes and procedures to support improved informational, physical, mental and communication access for disabled people. But for some much needed positivity, these recommendations are generally shared by members of the justice system. It's one of my party tricks when I'm presenting to put up two sets of recommendations and ask the audience who they thought recommended each. And one is a set from people with a learning disability, and the other set actually came from judges, and they're very aligned. But those recommendations are really aligned. And while I'm not suggesting that everyone across the justice system is committed to or ready for change, it is clear there are strong individual and collective champions across the justice sectors who are incredible allies, and many of whom will be here today. And just in my final seconds, to finally answer that question, what is the role of the justice system in promoting inclusion and belonging for people with disabilities and access needs? And I didn't collude with Warren prior to this presentation. The simple answer is to look to the United Nations Convention, Article 13 of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. In my view, Article 13 outlines the very clear obligations of the justice system or that the justice system has to promote inclusion and belonging for takara whai kaha, me whānau hawa, deaf and disabled people engaged in the justice system. And if genuine and consistent efforts were made to give effect to those very clear actions that are outlined in Article 13, inclusion and belonging in the form of disabled people being able to be effective participants in their own justice and legal matters, and to contribute to the justice system as citizens of Aotearoa will be within our grasp. Kia ora.
Me haro, tēnā koe, Bridget. Thank you so much for that kōrero. And I think that sets us up really well, you know, thinking about that Article 13 as such a strong and good foundation for the mahi that we want to do. So I'm really pleased to also be able to invite our second thinker, Dr. Michael Roguski, who is the director and social scientist in Kaitiaki Research and Evaluation. Michael is Te Aotearoa, Ngāti Tūwhare Toa, and is a social scientist with a focus on marginalised populations and on sensitive topic research. He has extensive research experience on topics like human rights in prison, the experiences of deaf and disabled people accessing healthcare and support, particularly during COVID-19, the abuse of police discretionary power, family and sexual violence, adult safeguarding in Aotearoa, and conversion practices and other manifestations of spiritual abuse, as well as the intersection of the criminal justice system and the lived experiences of disabled people. So we've got a real full panel of awesome thinkers today. And Michael, I'll hand over to you to give your initial kōrero again on that starting question around what is the role of justice in that process of inclusion and belonging for disabled people. Tēnā koe.
Kia ora, kia ora. Morena koutou katoa. Bridget, that was fantastic. And if I stumble, it's because Bridget sort of said some stuff that I was going to say. So I'm going to do a bit of a rewrite in my mind, okay? Responding to those who are disabled who have been victimized as an outcome of the interaction with the police is huge. We need to also think in terms of child-to-parent violence within some. Disabled's just done some amazing work. Lee Tempest worked there to do with children with the diagnosis of fetal alcohol spectrum disorder and neurodiversity. It's an unknown, unappreciated area that the justice system is stumbling to address. We don't have accurate data. The Victims of Crime survey needs to be revamped. We can't, we're struggling. We don't have younger people's voice. We don't have many disabled people's voices. The survey is restricted in where it goes. It's very difficult to access institutions. So it's one particular voice of some people who are victims of crime, but we need to do better. But really following on from what Bridget and Warren have said, while I fully agree about ableism, we have a punitive system. And our ableist punitive system means that many of us with traumatic brain injury, mental health diagnoses, other types of disability, we need a health response. We do not need a punitive justice response. We can see this with our burgeoning prison numbers. Just look at any of the statistics of people who with particular vulnerabilities, which those who are at risk, which includes disability, it's through the roof. And I think our system is broken, and there's a growing appreciation of this, and we need to revamp and think of things differently. But we need some courage. That said, in response to the question, my short answer is that change is not going to happen unless there is a macro level change, a macro level drive that forces this to happen. So in an environment of ableism and a lack of accountability, there is a need for legislative change. So in the time I have left, I just want to give a review of an evaluation that I did. It was funded by Te Puna Aonui and commissioned by Visable. And it was looking at, it was a 12-month adult safeguarding pilot in Auckland, and it was run in counties Manukau. And I just wanted to acknowledge Visable, Sue Hobbs, Debbie Hager, and Paul Gibson. So disabled people in Aotearoa have long faced criticism for the lack of appropriate responses to interpersonal abuse. Our current system offers varying levels of protection based on people's age. So if you're under 18, you fall under the remit of Oranga Tamariki. If you're over the age of 64, there are some contractual obligations, say through age concern, to address elder abuse. For those in the middle, though, adults at risk, we lack legislation and specific policy. So adult at risk, I should say, is defined as someone aged between 18 and 64 who has care and support needs, is experiencing or is at risk of abuse, neglect and harm, and cannot protect themselves because of those needs. So the pilot ran in 2021. It came out of the Te Aotearoa Kōrero, the national strategy, and it included adult safeguarding, which was to be handled through police-led, a multi-sectorial family violence response model. As a result, a 12-month pilot, which ended in 2024 in Counties Manukau, was commissioned to explore how to develop a local multi-sectorial adult safeguarding initiative. So the pilot brought together police, hospital kaimahi, community-based disability organisations, and a safeguarding coordinator. It failed. Every stakeholder agreed that it failed because the pilot stakeholders couldn't agree on a shared approach to adult safeguarding, including a shared understanding of the key safeguarding concepts. The evaluation identified that the reason why stakeholders could not agree was that they fell into three professional worldviews. Neither worldview is wrong, but each worldview was sufficiently rigid to stop, to hinder embracing an alternative or new way of addressing the issue, namely adult safeguarding.
Mm-hmm.
So as a result, stakeholders disagreed over key issues. What is an adult at risk, the threshold for intervention, and an important dilemma was whether it was appropriate to only focus on adults at risk. Why not also look at our children and those who are older? Concern was raised that our children are going to oranga tamariki who lacks a skill base in disability-related care and intervention. So the first stakeholder group was the criminal justice. They're often police, and they were seen to be more punitive, working within the law and understanding family violence. The trouble there is that disability-related abuse may fit within a family violence model, but it is unique and manifests in a unique manner. The next was the medical model. This was a worldview that privileges the perspectives of those who work in the medical field. I'm a doctor, therefore you've got to listen to me. I know best sort of attitude, a type of minimizing or negating of the disabled person's lived reality and that of the whānau. The third worldview was community advocacy. And these are like those out there on the ground community advocates who place the voice of the disabled person as central and do everything they can to bring in skills such as supported decision-making to make sure that the person's needs and wants are front and centre.
Michael, I really appreciate you sharing a bit around that pilot, and I think making it clear of those three different worldviews and some of the challenges there. So I think I'm going to pick up and ask you some follow-up questions about that when we get to the Q&A. But firstly, I'd just like to throw to our third panelist, our third thinker today, Dr. Lida Ayubi, and then we can weave all of those kōrero together as a collective. So Dr. Lida Ayubi is a senior lecturer and a director of law postgraduate programs at AUT Law School, and she specialises in international human rights law and public law. So she's taught, researched, presented and published widely on various human rights issues with a really strong focus on disability rights. So Dr. Lida, I'd like to throw to you now to give your first response to that grounding question that we had. And so we'll have 5 minutes from you and then we'll weave everything together through our Q&A. Dr. Lida, good morning, over to you.
Kia ora koutou katoa, morena kia ora. Ko Lida Ayubi toko ingoa. I'm a woman in my late 30s with long dark hair, and I'm wearing a black top and a black and white jacket. And my research background has been on accessibility of information for disabled persons mainly. I will really try not to repeat what has already been said and addressed beautifully by others. But I do like to tōtoko what especially Dr. Hu and Warren mentioned at the start of the seminar regarding the systemic nature of ableism. And while we may all know this, I think the closer we look, the more we realize how insidious ableism is and how the systemic discrimination manifests itself in every aspect of life, even when no ill intentions are present. Just to highlight one example from my own workplace, as this is a project I'm working on currently as part of a research for a book that an Australian, a blind academic, Dr. Paul Harper, is promoting, and that relates to universities across the world, but especially in Australia and New Zealand, and their disability policies, particularly for their disabled staff, so not students. And again, this has been my experience as a non-disabled person throughout my life, that unless I'd gone and looked closely in an area, I might not have been aware of discrimination or shortcomings. And this is also what happened for this project when I looked at AUT's policies and practices and realized that while AUT has had a disability policy and services for disabled students, there was none for disabled staff until very recently, where a very short reference was included in our most recent policy to disabled staff, and I'm working with others on evaluating that. Now, in terms of ableism in the justice system, I think if you take a bird's eye view, that's what I try to do, because obviously we have a lot of experts with quite niche and specialized focus areas of practice on this seminar. My view is that we can identify three interlocking themes. First, of course, is the need for securing individual access and procedural fairness. Things that have been mentioned as being important are practical accommodations, like providing funded sign language and other communication and interpretation services and supports, accessible documents and information, which of course, as I said, is my focus, and other reasonable adjustments, which are essential to making the legal processes usable and inclusive. Courts and tribunals, as we all know, are not neutral spaces that are divorced from social context. They are public institutions, and their procedures, language, the design, both physical and otherwise, include or exclude people. And as a law academic, my view is that this training around inclusivity and access and awareness should perhaps start at the law school level. The Office of the Chief Justice has been actively looking into this. The Chief Justice herself gave our annual AGM address to Aotearoa disability law last year, and she stressed delivering timely and accessible justice. And the Chief Justice is also an advocate of making legal education accessible. And in my opinion, training future lawyers on disability rights and law goes hand in hand with all of that. So should be part of that agenda as well. Second, another key tool we've seen used in the justice system for driving systemic reform is through strategic litigation and judicial review, which gives the courts the tools and the opportunity to interpret the Human Rights Act, the Bill of Rights Act, and to read domestic legislation and duties in line with the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and other human rights instruments, not just that. Just to give a few examples, we've recently seen cases about an intellectually disabled man detained for some 18 years under the Compulsory Care and Rehabilitation Act that really showed how legal, clinical, and resourcing failures can produce prolonged deprivation. We've seen the Abuse in Care inquiry, of course, and the decisions of the UN Human Rights Committee in 2022. And this litigation, again, shows media scrutiny that can expose those systemic gaps. Thirdly, is the importance of model inclusion through institutional design and partnership. We've heard from Andrew already, and I'd like to highlight research by my colleague, Associate Professor Katie Thom, that really mapped the barriers at the intersection of law, mental health, and disability, and proposes co-design solutions. Just to conclude, again, I'd like to emphasize that meaningful inclusion and belonging and overcoming ableism requires coordinated and co-design investment across education, health, housing, and the justice system. Ngā mihi katoa.
Brilliant. Tēnā koe, Dr. Leda Ayubi. Thank you so much for that presentation. So we're going to go to our Q&A now, and I can see that we have a couple of questions coming through. But firstly, I'd just like to throw back to Dr. Roguski. Michael, you mentioned in your initial kōrero, I think a real zinger, a really important quote for us to take away from today, which is that we have a punitive system and we don't need a punitive justice response. What we need is a health response. And so I'm wondering if you could briefly tell us how do you see those of us who are part of this event today? So we had our earlier panel with the decision makers, and of course we have yourselves here and the remaining panels to come today. So for those who are in this justice space, what do you think would be the most helpful action that we could take to collaborate to move our justice system closer towards a health response?
There's a model, it's called the Lisbon model. 2001, Portugal attempted to, or they didn't attempt, they decriminalized illicit drugs. There have been a lot of positive outcomes that came from that decriminalization, from decreased STIs, decreased numbers of people imprisoned. It was a shift from needing to lock someone up because of drug use. And let's face it, many people within the disabled community self-medicate, and we could be on that track. So rather than going down that way, there was a health response, which meant social workers. It wasn't forced underground out of fear of being prosecuted. You would come forward, you could easily seek help. The drugs that you were accessing were clean because they went on the black market. The other option is also to look at Scandinavia. Netherlands has a decreasing prison population. Scandinavia has a type of integrated justice system where it's not as punitive, but also the threshold for imprisonment is much higher in Scandinavia. So, but bottom line, if some of us are offending because of, there's a mix. So Huhana talked about it before. So frontal lobe damage from a traumatic brain injury plus alcohol use can result in an eruption of violence. This needs to be understood. This needs to be placed within a health response. That is not a criminal act. That is someone who has acted because of an organic dysfunction. So what I would do is get a working group together. Oh no, we don't want a working group. We just need some action around this. The evidence is out there. We just need some people to stop engaging in penal populism and electioneering and using crime as a way to gain favors and actually start with a little bit of heart and common sense in what our justice system should look like.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you, Michael, for that kōrero. I think that's such a pertinent point, especially at the moment where I think I can say that in society at the moment we are seeing so much talk that is very punitive, as a way to sort of rally up, I think, fear or distrust and to be able to push things through. And so I think that's a really important kōrero, that we almost need perhaps not more working groups, but those coalitions of the willing who are just ready to get stuff done. And on that note, I do have a question from the audience that I'm going to throw to Bridget. So Bridget, we know that you've been a huge proponent of speech and language therapy. And the audience member says that they're aware that there's been very limited funding for speech and language therapy to support people by effectively being translators in terms of language and communication for the individual and the court. And so in that vein of those who might be willing to go forward, do you see there being any appetite at the moment for increasing the use of SLTs in the justice system?
Yeah, thanks for that question. And yes, we've been, strong advocates for communication assistance being available to disabled complainants and defendants in the criminal justice system or in the justice system. And I think to answer your question, that there is an increasing use or understanding, awareness and use of communication assistance. And many of those communication assistants come with the speech language therapy background, so they're a really important part of this puzzle of increasing communication access. The one thing that I will say is that there seems to be a lot of, and it's inconsistent as to whether people can access communication assistance and whether legal professionals and the system is really instantly aware of that possibility or need for people, and being proactive about putting it in place. Sometimes we use the terminology of a sort of postcode delivery of something. I think communication assistance is increasing. There are a lot of great people and providers out there, but it is still not a given that people are able to access that communication, that assistance that they need to be effectively, participating in their own legal matter. So thanks for the question.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So that definitely needs to be something that's rolled out much more equitably. So it's not just down to luck there. I also...
Sorry, but I just butt in there. I know that it is, the Ministry of Justice have had quite an emphasis on it, and that there is a guideline around communication assistance in the courts. Thank you.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you for that. So that's probably a message to all of us then in this space that we know that there's some mahi happening there, so we need to make sure that we're also pushing those levers to encourage them to continue with that work. Now, I also have a question for Dr. Ayubi. So, Leader, you mentioned that, there does seem to be an appetite for change, particularly ensuring that training around inclusivity and around disability starts at that law school level. So I guess the idea or the through line of that being, how do we make sure that those who are working in this justice system, really have those equitable ideas, and that we're addressing them at the mindset level at the very beginning of their careers to take them the whole way through. And so in your position, at the law school, at the School of Law at AUT, what do you think would be the most helpful for those of us here on this call, those of us in this justice space? How could we support or encourage law schools to really prioritise this and help you? How do we help you help us?
Thanks, Kara. So this is something I'm only now beginning to think about myself, even though it just sounds and seems like such an obvious idea. But I think just things like this, seminars, requiring that from policymakers, from universities themselves. A lot of times, people think that, education is top down. A lot of times it's actually bottom up. We get inspired by our students and what they want us to teach them or what they want us to cover in the law school. And we saw that happen with the incorporation of tikanga into the legal teaching. Some people might be familiar with that. So I think, again, it's awareness raising generally, as simple and cliche as that sounds. It does feed into all levels of planning and education and so on and so forth. And obviously building the connections. So I'm just, again, on a very personal level, I'm putting together a course on disability rights and law in New Zealand, because we discussed that as part of other papers, but we don't currently have a standalone paper on that. And I'm also going to look at other law schools and see. I haven't really seen something that is offered on a regular basis. But as part of developing that, I was thinking about not having a super academic course, because I think it just doesn't fit a topic like this, but really bringing in people like on this seminar and others who are working in the space who are able to offer that first-hand insight. So I think that support and that connection would be really valuable to the students as well, again, in terms of getting inspired for what they can do in the future as lawyers.
Yeah, so we're giving them a bit of that, a little bit of a sense of this is the kind of impact you can have, and enabling them to really hear firsthand experiences going through that justice system And we also heard about that importance of, continuing to raise awareness. So I think that's a challenge for all of us who are on the webinar today, to also make sure that we're sharing afterwards and that we're able to promote the recording and things, so that we can get, increase that awareness and hopefully help to filter through to places like the law school. So we are just about to wrap up. So I have one final question from an audience member, and I'm going to ask for the panelists just to respond very quick fire. So over to you, Jo, for a brief final question for our panelists.
Thank you. This is to all of you. You lead critical research and evaluation. How are deaf people involved as co-researchers or advisors in your projects rather than merely participants?
Shall I take that first? Bridget here. Thank you for the question, Jo. And it's a really good one. And I think for researchers and disability research, there's been an evolving history in terms of the level of the roles that disabled people take in research. In terms of our own research, deaf people are involved in all levels. And so we work really hard to ensure we have deaf researchers engaged in our research, and we also engage with deaf people as participants, advisors, and all sorts of other roles around the research. But that has been a work in progress, that we haven't always been perfect, but we are really working hard to ensure that deaf people are involved in all layers of the research as they want to be involved, including as researchers and leaders of that research. So thanks for the question.
Absolutely. And I'd just encourage you to also check out some more of that mahi from the Donald Beasley Institute. I think there's some really great examples there. Now, I'll just see, Leader Michael, did either of you want to jump in on that before we wrap up?
Very similar to Bridget. Yep.
Ka pai. Leader, how about in the AUT space?
Same, very similar to what Bridget highlighted. And it is one of the, we're talking about negatives today, but one of the positives, at least for the sort of decade or so I've been doing research in this space, is seeing more sort of leadership roles in terms of research being taken up by disabled researchers, and that more awareness around the need to include or, again, follow as leaders people with lived experience when it comes to research.
Absolutely. Yeah, excellent. Well, look, a big mihi to you all, and thank you for getting through those questions so quickly. I know that we do have some more questions in the Q&A. We're going to go to a break, so I'll hand over to Frankie in a second, but just would like to thank our thinkers again and encourage you to answer any of the outstanding questions in the Q&A if you're able. So a big mihi to everyone for joining us on this panel with the thinkers, and back over to you, Frankie.
Kia ora whānau, great insights there on our panel that's just happened. I just wanted to offer an apology, aroha mai, to our blind and low vision whānau. I just want to describe what I'm looking like. So I'm a Māori wahine that is late 30s, nearly 40, tan skin. I've got a long sleeve black top on with mother of pearl chest plate that is in the shape of a manawa, a heart, and wearing two long earrings that are in the shape of roi mata, a teardrop. My hair is dark black, tied up in a bun, and I have a bone hiru with a manaya going through it, and big dark reading glasses on, and a moko kauai on my chin. So great thought there, whānau, very thought-provoking, and initiatives and sharing and guidance there. Let's go to a 10-minute break and absorb all of that, and I'll see you back in 10 minutes. Kia ora. Our third panel with the creators is coming up next. Moderating this panel is Tārewa Cohen. Kōrero is the Governance and Operations Liaison Officer at Kapo Māori Aotearoa New Zealand. She will introduce our next panelists.
Nā mihi, Frankie, for your introduction, and tēnā koutou katoa e tēnei ata. Ko waio, ko kahurana ki te maunga, ko tukutuku te awa, ko kahurana ki te marae, ko takitimu te waka, ko te rangikoia na ki te hapu, ko Ngāti Kahununu e Ngāti Porou te iwi, ko Tarewa Kawana Hau. No mai haere mai to our creators panel. I would like to introduce our panelists who will be joining us today and for the next half an hour. Firstly, I would like to introduce Susan Martel. Susan is a legal supervisory associate at the Aotearoa Disability Law. She is a passionate advocate for disability rights and a leading voice in disability law in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Our next panelist is Prudence Walker. Prudence is the current Disability Rights Commissioner at Kai Houtu Tika Haunga Tangata at New Zealand Human Rights Commission, Te Kahui Tika Tangata. Prudence brings over 15 years of dedicated experience in human rights, and with a career including previous positions as Chief Executive for the DPA and also a member of the DPO organisations, and a number of different rights and values and leadership-based roles with a disability service within the disability service sector. Our next panelist after that is Paul Gibson. Paul is an independent disability consultant and the chair of the New Zealand Disability Strategy for the Justice Working Group at Whaikaha for the Ministry of Disabled People. Paul has both personal and family experience of disability. He was our first Disability Human Rights Commissioner at the Human Rights Commission and also chaired the Global Alliance of Human Rights and Human Rights Institution Disability Caucus. He was a commissioner on the Royal Commission of Inquiry into the Abuse in State Care and in the care of faith-based institutions. Our last panelist is Kate McKay, a member of the Law Association, New Zealand's Mental Health and Disability Law Committee. Kate has a strong passion for social justice and her own experiences with being neurodivergent that led her into a mental health and disability law field, using her voice and expertise to advocate for those who need it the most. Now, just as a friendly reminder to our panelists, please say your name before speaking, and please be very cautious of how your speaking speed for our lovely interpreters and also our captioning. Each panelist, you now have 5 minutes to address the initial statement question, which is, what is the role of justice in the process of inclusion and belonging with disabilities? And I'd like to start off with Susan. Ngā mihi.
Tēnā koutou. Ka maunga kia I whānau mai ahau, e noho ana ahau I roto I te atarangi o maunga kia, no te whānau Wakeland ahau, ko Susan Martel ahau. Thank you for coming. By way of description, I'm an older Pākehā woman. I've got my hair tied back. I wear rimless glasses. I have gold heart earrings on and a black turtleneck jumper, and I put a face on for today. I've had a recent diagnosis also of ADHD, so that's been quite a learning curve for me. So Auckland Disability Law was created in 2008 to meet the unmet legal need of people in the deaf and disability community in Auckland. Last year, we became Aotearoa Disability Law, so now we are available nationwide. We are largely funded by the Ministry of Justice, so we are part of the justice system. We shouldn't need a specialist law centre. Our justice system should be accessible to everyone using it, but it's not. In an effort to improve the justice system, we educate, we take part in law reform. We would like to see practical change as a result, but this is clearly a long game. And I note Warren's waiting time of 13 years for the UN recommendations to be applied. So an example I can relate to is that in 2018, we met with Te Upu Hapai Te Ora, which was a panel convened by Chester Burrows to make submissions on barriers to accessing justice. They remain today, so I'll use those. We focused on three major areas: inaccessibility of the police, legal aid and court processes on entering the justice system, lack of supports and access to advocacy during incarceration, lack of access to supports leading up to and following parole. We see inconsistent provision of New Zealand Sign Language interpreters when interacting with police or in court. We actually need to pressure police into taking statements and investigating offending, even serious offending, that has been reported by deaf people or other people with learning disabilities. We shouldn't have to do that. We see people with learning disabilities not having access to whānau, support workers or communication assistants when arrested, questioned and charged. We see people with autism having their communication devices removed and supporters not being available when interacting with police. Usually someone will, who's charged with an offence, will rely completely on the duty lawyer first time they go to court. And many lawyers don't seem to understand the Intellectual Disability Compulsory Care and Rehabilitation Act and Criminal Procedure Mentally Impaired Persons Act. I acknowledge, though, that Corrections is currently doing a nationwide roadshow for lawyers, providing education on this. And the number of cases coming through is so substantial that in Auckland District Court, there's a whole court day dedicated to these cases, and huge problem with getting the reports that are required from the forensic professionals. Those are the alternative pathways that we're designed to support a person with a learning disability or mental disorder. And we see people who, because of their presentation, are treated like everybody else. And as a result, they may be encouraged to enter a guilty plea and be sentenced without understanding what they have even been charged with. We see people who don't have legal aid or who have been assigned legal aid lawyers who are unfamiliar with disability or deaf-related needs. And it's not easy to change lawyers. Once a person is sentenced, it can be very difficult to go back and seek a rehearing where they have pleaded guilty. When someone goes into the correction system, black hole, we have found that they can lose access to interpreters, communication devices, wheelchairs, information in accessible formats. Deaf people in particular serve their sentences severely isolated. They can't complete programs that would help them get paroled. They tend to complete an entire sentence without parole. In one case, it was a prison guard who alerted us that a deaf inmate had a parole hearing the next day, but didn't know they could get legal assistance. They had spent their entire sentence communicating in small written notes, and that guard was worried for this guy. One common problem comes from whānau of rangatahi with serious behavioural problems related to autism. Sometimes this has become unmanageable in the home, and whānau are so desperate for supports not available to them through health or education that they call the police, which is really bad. That's really bad. Many people with significant learning disabilities and mental disorders are in the wrong system, as the other speakers have said. They should not be dealt with through the justice system, and they would not be if our disability support services in the community were adequate. I won't address people who are in our forensic units. That's another whole kōrero, as is our mental health court system. But we look forward to a time when Aotearoa disability law is not necessary and access to justice is equitable for all. Ngā mihi.
Kia ora, Susan, for that insightful kōrero. There's a few points that we might want to pick up during the Q&A around your kōrero as well. We're going to move on to Prudence to answer the question, what is the role of justice in the process of inclusion and belonging of people with disabilities?
Tēnā koutou katoa. Tēnei te mihi ki a koutou. E whanu mai ahau ki Papioia, ki Otutahi e noho ana. Kai hei tū te kahoatanga mō te kahui te tangata ki Aotearoa ahau. Ko Prudence whakatakoanga wa nō reira. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. My sign name is the sign for pink, referring to my pink here. It's always invigorating to join with people who are working and creating a just and fair world of equal opportunity for disabled people. And following on from such great contributors, it can be a challenge to add to what has already been discussed. As somebody who is brain injured and also neurodivergent, I'm thankful to many of the previous speakers who have highlighted the overrepresentation in many parts of the justice system as victims, as perpetrators of people with those impairments. I won't apologise for any repetition I make today, because when many of us are advocating for similar things, it shows how fundamental they are to the structural and practice changes we need to see. It is not that we do not know what the needs to change or even how to do it are. We have heard of good practices, but we've lacked the commitment to a coherent strategy for change. The justice system has a huge role to play in promoting inclusion and belonging for people with disabilities, because the justice system reflects social thinking, entrenches social thinking, and can challenge social thinking. Our laws and the language used in them reflect what society thinks is reasonable, acceptable, or the norm. So, for example, referring to vulnerable people reflects the ableist and disableist thinking that who Kēra and Bridget in particular have spoken to about people's capabilities. Our laws also entrench thinking as we look to them for guidance. For example, if the law says that it's permissible for a disabled woman to be sterilised without consent, or people in psychosocial distress to be treated without their consent, it reinforces thinking that disabled people have limits on their legal rights and that others should be able to make decisions for us. It is disappointing that more than 15 years after ratifying the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, if people look to the law for guidance on how to implement the CRPD, they will find it explicitly mentioned in only one piece of legislation. But the justice system can also challenge thinking, because courts have said, even though the CRPD is not expressly named in a law, the human rights obligations it carries must still be upheld. We've also heard about how the court can shift ways of thinking from punitive approaches to more effective, rehabilitative, wraparound and transformative approaches when tikanga is embedded in judicial processes such as te ao marama and rangatahi and marae-based courts. Justice and access to justice is about more than the formal justice system of our laws, police or courts, criminal or civil. Justice is the business of our whole political and public service system. Central and local government decisions and budgets demonstrate what we value, what we will resource, and whether we have fair and equitable access to goods and services, and whether we have clear and easily accessed ways to solve things when they go wrong. Access to justice is core to enjoying so many other rights, like our rights to education, habilitation and rehabilitation, access to information, a decent standard of living, and accessible transport. We need all of those available, accessible, and equitable to be able to participate in the public and political processes that shape our lives. The justice system, being a microcosm of society, displays the failures in those wider systems and the inequities that result. The overrepresentation of disabled people in the justice system, overrepresentation of Māori, disabled people not being treated as credible complainants or witnesses. And these can be worsened within the justice process
where there is a lack of procedural accommodations in judicial processes and a lack of reasonable accommodation in policy, practice, or facilities of justice agencies. It's relevant to note here that unlike other contexts of reasonable accommodations, the limitation of undue burden does not apply to procedural accommodations in the justice system. Strengthening access to justice rests on having well-resourced, free or low-cost advocacy and legal representation services, peer-led services, institutions like the Human Rights Commission, the Waitangi Tribunal, or the Health and Disability Commission that promote and protect Te Tiriti and human rights through issuing guidance, making submissions, strategic advocacy, mediation or investigation, and resolution and redress. It also rests on using the expert blueprints available for an inclusive and responsive justice system. For example, we have the set of recommendations made to Justice and Corrections from the CRPD Committee in 2022 related to Article 13, which include embedding Te Tiriti and the CRPD and UNDRIP in legislation to ensure self-determination, repelling laws that allow for substitute decision-making, reducing restrictive practices like solitary confinement, strengthening the requirement for reasonable accommodation in the Human Rights Act, increasing access to free and low-cost advocacy and legal representation. These recommendations reflect and reinforce a set of guidance set out in the international principles and guidelines on access to justice for persons with disabilities. Kimberly will put the link in the chat there. These 10 principles include several items that we have talked about today. As the name suggests, there is guidance on what these principles mean in practice and what we need to do, like recognising legal capacity and making sure no one is denied access to justice on the basis of disability, accessibility, non-discrimination, and right to procedural accommodations and the training of the judiciary, repelling laws, regulations, policies, guidelines, and practices that directly or indirectly restrict the legal capacity of persons with disabilities, and creating an enforceable right for individually determined procedural accommodations, including support necessary to enable persons with disabilities to participate effectively in all proceedings in any court, tribunal, or forum, and to ensure that persons with disabilities and their representative organisations participate in the development and presentation of all training. As I said earlier, it is not knowledge that we lack, but today's conversation can be another step to galvanising action. All of us here today can help amplify the call for change, and I urge particularly those working in the justice system, if they are not already familiar, to access the guidelines and use them to support your advocacy and our human rights agreements for disabled people's equality before the law and access to justice. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Thank you, Prudence, for that. We'll move on to Paul now.
Kia ora Tarewa. Ko taranaki te maunga, ko purupura ora o, ko tangata whaikaha tauiwi o, ko Paul Gibson te ngoa. Can I start with, there's an immediate opportunity to influence the justice system for people with disabilities and justice, to start building the basis of a just society for us, for our whānau, for all of us. The New Zealand Disability Strategy is being refreshed at the moment, and one of the 5 key areas is justice. It's about to go out for consultation. It's not quite at the point where it can be publicly shared, a first draft, and I'd encourage everybody to bring their whakaro, their kōrero from today to the development of the strategy. There's an expectation that after a consultation process, it'll go back to ministers and hopefully be signed off by the end of the year. So there's an immediate opportunity to begin now on a transformational journey towards a just society, which could take a generation or two. I'd like to acknowledge 2 of my colleagues from the Justice Working Group for the Disability Strategy, Tarewa, thank you, and Huhana. what is justice? What is its role in the inclusion, belonging of disabled people's lives? Justice is fundamental, and can I stretch the thinking beyond what is a justice system to what a just society might look like for disabled people, for our whānau, and how do we get there? But what is controlled within the justice system sits as a basis for this, and much of the legislation, the interpretation of the CRPD, is led within the justice system. Justice legislation underpins the rights, the values that disabled people live by, and the society that guides us. How ableism is framed up and understood sits within the words which sit in the laws which the justice system has a control of. I've got a few thoughts for the development of the disability strategy, for the refresh of it. I've got 3 priority areas. It's a start. And first, looking at what the government has committed at the moment, it's been a challenge to move governments of various persuasions along the direction at any reasonable pace towards a just society, towards a CRPD compliant, rights-based society for disabled people, but maybe looking at where the government has first made some noises. There are 2 relevant government targets for justice for disabled people in New Zealand. One is to reduce violence in our society, so that less victims of violence, and another is to reduce youth offending. So the 3 priorities I'd look to advocate for in the disability strategy is first, that reduction of the violence and abuse against disabled people. We know from the abuse and care inquiry that disabled people are much more overrepresented in being victims, survivors of abuse, of violence, physical, sexual, emotional, psychological, neglect, both within care systems where there is some government paid component to what is happening in our lives, or some government regularly component, and in our families and communities outside of that care system. Disabled people are much more overrepresented. Can I just give an example of how invisible, out of sight, out of mind we still are? Over the last year or so, there's been a lot of focus on boot camps. There is about 10 young people have been put in this boot camp recently. Now that, I think, doesn't align with any sense of justice or any sense of rehabilitation that many of us have. And that's 10 people and they shouldn't be there. But there's in the order of 10,000 disabled people in residential care and including mental health residential care, including residential special schools. 10,000, 1,000 times as many as in boot camps. The risk of abuse and neglect and of wasted lives for these people is high, and it's hardly got on the national conversation around abuse and care to the state still. It started, but we've got to continue working. So I would like to see that the reduction of violence and abuse against disabled people, which will take a generation to solve, it'll take a generation to get people out of the many people that are in care settings into safe environments, but we need to start sometime soon. The Abuse and Care Inquiry produced a vision and a series of recommendations which should be adopted in whole by the government. To date, there hasn't been a lot of uptake, and some recommendations have been rejected. The Abuse Inquiry looks at the underpinning causes of factors that lead to abuse, neglect, violence, and that includes ableism. It's been talked about here before, but we need to promote the broader understanding of ableism, disableism within our society so that it's understood on the same basis as racism, sexism, and other forms of discrimination. Institutionalisation. We still have many institutions in New Zealand at the moment, and people are subject to abuse and neglect out of sight, out of mind. Segregation in schools and in living arrangements, and invisibility. Disabled people still are largely invisible within our society. Our leadership is still not as visible as it should be, and the abuse and neglect we face remains invisible. A second key priority for me in terms of the disability strategy update is reducing youth offending and understanding that journey of particularly young disabled people on the way into custody, into youth justice facilities. Young disabled people, right from the start of their lives, are not identified. They're not given the support they need in their early lives, in early childhood, in families and whānau. They're not given the support they need in education. We aren't given the support we need in education. And when it comes to the youth justice system, it's probably too late. We can and we should be doing better earlier. We should be affirming people's identity and difference as opposed to imposing a kind of deficit construct of who their identity is. If I can refer to Maui, the hero, the atua in the Te Ao Māori, he was cheeky, rebellious, defiant, couldn't be subdued by his whānau, his older brothers, and yet he remains the hero. He harnessed the power of the sun and fished up Aotearoa. That is the power of neurodiversity. Maui would be given a label of like ADHD or something in today's system. We need to celebrate and give strength to the difference, to the diversity which makes us different and makes us strong and allows us to have a unique contribution. So with youth justice, we need to start with affirmation, giving support at all those various points in the process. I think Warren used a phrase, we need to disrupt these early settings which lead to the almost inevitable journey into youth justice. My third key focus is changing the human rights framework. We need a Disability Rights Act embedded in the CRPD. We need stronger human rights legislation embedded so that there are obligations associated with it. And there needs to be duties attached to it, standards, so that the burden of proving a breach in rights does not lie with disabled people, our families, our communities, which can take years to go through a court system, but there needs to be a strict monitoring and regulatory process so that disabled people's rights are upheld, not just by us asserting them, but by the duties and standards which are spelled out within disability rights legislation within that framework. So just reiterating again, encourage everybody to take the opportunity now, the immediate opportunity in front of us. In weeks, I think it will be, that consultation will begin. The publicly available draft document on the disability strategy will be there. We need to have a strong push for building the just society, the foundations of justice, of inclusion, of belonging, so that we all and future generations of disabled people will live great lives in a just society. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Thank you, Paul. Just a reminder to our panelists, if you'd like to go through our questions, a Q&A, to start answering some questions, and I'm going to move on to Kate, our last person, to give us your opinion about the question asked.
Kia ora, everybody. My name is Kate Mackay. I'm here today representing the Law Association's Mental Health and Disability Law Committee, which I'm a member of. Firstly, I'd just like to say it's been so great hearing what everyone has to say, and there's been so many suggestions, great suggestions on what there is to do. So I would like to specifically talk about my ideas around this question from my perspective as a early stage soon-to-be lawyer, and my personal experiences of being neurodivergent and the insights that that offers me into the system. I also just want to note before I start how heartening it is to hear so many people openly talk about their neurodivergence. I think even just a few years ago, we probably wouldn't have heard that at all. So yeah, just really wanted to acknowledge that before I started. So in the time that I have, I want to talk about three key things, and I will focus mainly on neurodivergence, just because that's where my expertise lies within the broader disability advocacy space, and particularly with neurodivergence, ADHD. I don't want to speak for communities that I don't have lived experience or extensive research experience in. So that will be my main focus. So firstly, in relation to the question, what the role the justice system has in promoting inclusion and belonging for people with disabilities and access needs. Specifically within the justice system, some of the immediate things we can do is make adjustments to the sensory environment at all stages of the justice system, whether it's someone with ADHD, their first interaction with police, and it's take your hoodie down. Well, maybe instead of taking my hoodie off, could you turn off these very bright fluorescent lights in the police interviewing room? And the same goes for the court. These very artificial constructed environments where there's no room for social error, there's no room for fidgeting, that's seen as disruptive, poor behavior. And like was said by one of the earlier speakers, it's immediately punished. It's not seen from, hey, let's get you a sensory aid, a fidget device to use while you're in this environment. It's punished. And that's also seen in the prison system. They're incredibly loud, echoey environments, uncomfortable. Again, these harsh lighting, overhead lighting, fluorescent lights. They're incredibly triggering for people with sensory issues, which are incredibly common with people with ADHD and neurodiversities. So these small changes are immediate things that the justice system can, look to work on to say, hey, we are making changes to make you more physically accommodated, and we recognize those changes instead of punishing reactions to those uncomfortable physical environments. Another thing is quiet spaces. We have them quiet hours at the supermarket. We have quiet hours in museums, events, quiet spaces. So why not prisons? Why not at police stations? That's something that the justice system can immediately look into and make quite tangible change in the short term. Another thing I want to speak to, which has been raised today, is neurodivergence awareness across all levels of the justice system, especially in law schools. It's incredibly lacking at all stages of the justice system, but it is incredibly heartening to hear the changes that have been made, especially at police training level and in the corrections system. But from my personal experience, I know that it's almost entirely absent in law schools. I only came to this area, this space, through my own personal experiences. There was nothing in law school directing me here to highlighting any of, the fact that this is a significant pressing issue, and everything was directing me towards commercial, that side of law. And it's incredibly easy to overlook. But as some of the previous speakers have said about, making new courses at AUT, it's something that once you're aware of it, there are changes that can be made, courses that can be implemented, because otherwise we're sending lawyers off into the system where disabled people are overwhelmingly overrepresented, and the lawyers have no idea how to interact with disabled people with ADHD, and that just exacerbates the existing problem. And also within law schools for law students, like has been said earlier, we need disabled lawyers, we need neurodivergent lawyers, and law schools are almost actively, I would argue, inhibiting that. Whether it's physical access to the Auckland Law School, in my experience, there's an incredibly steep ramp down to the law school. So people in wheelchairs have to go all the way around to get access to the law school physically. I know my experiences as a neurodivergent law student. I had to actively fight to get support and actively fight just to have basic accommodations put in place. And that is incredibly disheartening as a law student trying to get through and graduate to hopefully make the change needed. So that is another thing that I would argue needs to be done. And also, finally, I want to speak to co-creation of all policy and legislation. A case study that I want to highlight is my experience doing a submission for the Mental Health and Disability Law Committee last year on drug driving legislation. It is now law, doing roadside drug testing, just like they would for alcohol. But the legislation itself was incredibly problematic for several reasons, but in particular, our submission focused on its impact on people with ADHD and who take stimulant medication, because there are particular stimulant medications that can be picked up on these tests that are not super accurate as amphetamines, which is one of the prohibited drugs picked up by the test. And we produced an incredibly detailed and lengthy submission on that, and there wasn't a trace of it in the select committee report. And there was no mention of ADHD, nothing on anything we had submitted, because our main concern was that if it's picked up by the test, the medical defense for, hey, I haven't taken an illicit substance, I'm just taking my prescribed medication, which actually helps me to be a better driver. It only seemed that you could raise that defense once you'd been banned from driving for 12 hours and had gone to a lab for further testing. So that is just an example of how not listening to disabled voice in legislation creation could now potentially lead to further criminalization. Well, it's not a criminal offense, but to, lack of a better word, further pushing more neurodivergent people into the justice system unnecessarily, when it is something that could have been quite relatively simply clarified in legislation that a medical defense is available at the roadside. So that's what I had to say on my particular answer to that question. And I think those are some small but very impactful changes that the justice system can make in the short term, alongside all the wonderful and brilliant long-term other suggestions that have been made today by other panelists.
Kia ora, thank you, Kay, and I wish you the best on your lawyer journey going forward. And it's really inspiring to see you making those changes for our future law students as well. So ngā mihi. Unfortunately, we don't have time to answer questions, but we do invite panelists to go through our Q&A and have a look and see what you want to answer. I'll hand it back over to Frankie.
Good, thank you so much, Tadiwa. Finally, let's welcome our fourth and final panel, the doers. Unfortunately, Caleb Simpkins is involved with the trial that has extended. So Tawera has kindly offered to do 2 moderating roles and moving forward with our next panel, the doers. Thank you so much. Kia ora. Did everyone just hear what I said?
Yes. Kia ora, Frankie. Thank you. And I'm back again. Ngā mihi and morena koutou again. I have the honour of welcoming everyone to our last panel, the doers. So our panelists that'll be joining us this morning is Darren Atchison, is the General Manager of Youth Law. Darren is the General Manager, and he has worked as a lawyer for 20 years, including 16 years in the community law sector. He has extensive knowledge of access to the justice system and strong relationships with community law and the broader legal profession. Next up, we have Tanya Thomas. Tanya is the Director of Advocacy at IHC New Zealand. Tanya is a respected leader within the disability sector in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and with dedicated decades of experience advocating for the rights of our people, for rights, choices, and well-being for disabled people and their whānau. And then our last panelist today is Nan Jensen, the Director of For Better Lives Legal. known for a passionate and slightly cynical disability law advocate, Nan brings both legal expertise and lived experience to her work, regularly delivering workshops on key disability law topics, including supported decision-making, planning for adulthood, and education law. As a friendly reminder to our panelists again, please say your name before speaking and be cautious of your speaking speed for our lovely NZSL interpreters and captioning. As we're running over a bit of time, we now have 5 minutes with this initial question I'm going to ask, and we'll start with Darren. So the question is, what is the role of justice in the process of inclusion and belonging of people with disabilities? Kia ora.
Kia ora koutou, ko Darren Aitchison, taku ingoa. I've been on the board of Aotearoa Disability Law previously. I'm General Manager of Youth Law Aotearoa. I've been working in the community law sector for 17 years, I think now. And I've spent most of my career actually thinking about the justice system and questions like the role of the justice system in promoting inclusion and belonging for people generally, but for people with disabilities and access needs as well. The answer to the question, really, in my view, is that the justice system has everything to do with promoting inclusion and belonging for people with disabilities. I think of the justice system in its totality and in its widest sense, which is includes the laws in Aotearoa, the lawmakers in Aotearoa, the administrators of the public system, so the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, WINS, ACC, and the courts. Those would be the sort of four main parts of the formal justice system. And the reality is that the law impacts every aspect of our life. It impacts the basics that we need to survive, so access to food, water, housing, healthcare, those sorts of things. But it also impacts the areas of life that we need to actually thrive as human beings. The law should, in theory, the justice system should give us those necessities of life. It should keep us safe and supported and free from harm. It should give us access to education, training, employment, and all the support that we need to reach our potential. The law should support us to feel accepted, respected, and connected to each other. And it should ensure that we are empowered and enabled to be involved in society or choose not to be involved if we don't want to be. And this is actually, these are not high-flying ideas that are just abstract. They're actually legal principles that Aotearoa has agreed to, along with every other country, that this is the society that we want for all people. And my view is that the legal system is capable of making this world a reality, but it needs some really, really major changes. The first thing it really needs, I think, is for the people who make the laws to understand the access needs and the rights of disabled people. Unfortunately, the way our system works is that anybody can get into Parliament and start making laws, and they don't need to have any knowledge of the legal and access needs of disabled people or disabled rights. So, you know, we really need to get as many disabled people into Parliament as we can. Every MP needs to be trained on disability rights. And if we can't get that, at the very least, we should be targeting members of Parliament and advocating as strongly as we can, particularly with the senior people around disability rights and the need to understand what is required to actually give effect to those rights. I think we also need to create a culture where human rights and disability rights are taken seriously. And the primary levers in this sense are rights-based legislation. So we have an international convention, which is fantastic. It's an amazing step forward. But we need to turn the principles in that international law into domestic legislation. That's the key way that people will be, and institutions will be forced to be accessible and open and to give effect to disabled people's rights. The other thing we need is to, I think, have disabled people actively involved in the design of all government services. I'm an absolutely firm believer of the principle that if we build accessible systems, they'll be accessible for everybody and nobody will miss out. So having disabled people involved in the design of our government systems, so that's MSD, ACC, the courts, all of that, we need to have those that lived experience in those design conversations. And fourthly, there needs to be kind of constitutional change within government systems where disabled people are actually decision makers within the power structures. So they're part of the governance of all government agencies and not just advisors, but actually hold power within those decision-making processes. I think that's the best way to actually make sure that there's that disability rights and voice is taken seriously as we design and take decisions about how to restructure justice systems. This does can feel impossible. It's a huge transformation, but I think I want to just give a little bit of hope. Our justice system has actually evolved over 800 years. It's a system which has been about the contest between those who have power and those who want to have rights. And there's been enormous progress made in my lifetime in the last 50 years in terms of the advancement of disability rights. And so it can feel like there's a long way to go still, but actually we're making enormous progress and making it quite rapidly. So I hope there's a little bit of hope there for people. I know I've started really broad and I'm mindful of time, but I just want to talk about the kind of courts system a little bit. And just drawing on some of those principles that I've already talked about. For the court system, why this is important is that if people's rights are breached, they need to be able to go to the court and for the court to enforce those rights. So this principle of access to justice is a hugely critical part of making disabled rights a reality. So there's some real basic things that can be done. I think they've probably been spoken about a lot today, but accessible facilities, accessible technologies, accessible information, communication support, time to navigate the system and ask questions. All those sorts of things are really critical to the design of our justice systems. But I think to be truly accessible, the people working in those systems need to become disability aware, particularly the people with power. So judges, lawyers, court staff, police, but also in government bodies, work and income staff, school boards, all of these institutions need to have an awareness around disability. And that training needs to focus not just on the technical kind of access needs of people with disability, but it needs to really embrace supported decision making. And I think one of the reasons for that is that being empowered to make decisions for yourself is part of thriving. It's part of what's been promised to every New Zealander through our human rights framework. And I think that if we can train judges and senior people within our institutions to really support the supported decision making of disabled people, then we're taking a huge step to providing an environment where thriving can happen. So yeah, lots to do, but those are some of the big levers that I'd like to see pulled.
Kia ora, Darren. We'll move on to Tanya next. Tēnā koe, Tanya.
Tēnā koe tawera, tarewa. Kia ora everyone, I'm Tanya. I hail from the far north, Ngāti Kahu on my dad's side, and Ngāti Mahurihuri and Scottish on my mum's side. Well, in answering that question, what is the role of the legal system? To me, it's they have to understand the specific needs and rights of people with disabilities. And my perspective is from working with people with intellectual disabilities and their families. So it's especially true for people with intellectual disabilities who in the current system are often not understood, are often misunderstood, and are not treated fairly. So what you would also want to see is that the legal system includes understanding and implementing reasonable accommodations, so the individual can fairly participate in the legal process that's impacting them, and in a way that doesn't further marginalise them in an already marginalised system. When people come to me, it's usually the parent of an adult child who is in so-called trouble with the police, and they are at their wits' end. They're worried, they're stressed, their child is pretty much the same, and they are finding it absolutely impossible to know where to get advice from, what to do, what they're entitled to, who can help them. A common thing is that parents that I've worked with, they believe their adult child has or will confess or agree and plead to being guilty if pressured to do so. One parent described it to me as a slam dunk for the criminal justice system. You know, it's much easier and more efficient for the system if somebody pleads guilty. So those are the kinds of experiences that I have, and they're usually very emotionally high, lots of stress. So what I look at in terms of being in the doer group, I totally agree with all of the longer term things that have been mentioned about changes in domestic legislation to give real meaning to the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Disabled Persons with Disabilities, all of the things that you have to be able to have monitored and have it actually being held to account. So I agree with that. But in the meantime, what I do with my team and with the people that I work with in the community is I say, right, in the meantime, we need more research and we need to collect data. We need to encourage research on the experience of individuals with intellectual disabilities in the legal system. We know what a lot of the barriers are. We're not too good on coming up with the solutions. And so there has been some fantastic research. You've already heard Bridget Murphy-Veach. Some of the research she did in 2014 is fabulous. The Chief Ombudsman, that was Judge Peter Boscher, he did a wonderful report on people that are in compulsory care and rehabilitation under that Act. IHC, my organisation, has done some research using the IDI, I'm just trying to think of the full term for it, Integrated Data Infrastructure, which is the government's information that they collect. And we've done some research on that. And one of the things we know, for example, is that intellectually disabled individuals are 1.6 times more likely to have a criminal conviction, and they're 3 times more likely to be in prison. And that number may be underestimated because as many may be diverted to the secure care in the community. And so that information is not captured in the data. So I believe that you do have to have that research and data so that you can use evidence to advocate for the change that you need. It's a shame that there is that data and it's not used. So the next one is we in my organisation develop empowerment programs or empowerment sessions where we work with individuals with intellectual disabilities and their families to encourage and help them self-advocate so that they can more effectively communicate and assert their rights. And we introduce things like supported decision-making. I'm currently looking at what we could do in terms of getting a feedback mechanism in place for people with intellectual disabilities and their advocates to provide feedback on their experience within the legal system. And that can help you identify, areas for improvement and accountability. I was really interested listening to Darren talk about, the huge impact that the legal system has on our lives, our thriving in our lives. And this is where cross-agency collaboration can really work well. It's not always easy because everyone has their own goals that they're pursuing, and they find it really hard to concentrate on one shared goal that everybody could work on. But this whole webinar shows us that we are actually all doing lots of work in this area, and we may not be collaborating in the best way. We may not be working across each other. We may be duplicating effort. So I would really like to welcome anyone that's on the webinar or listening to it. If you're interested in some collaborative work, I am too. I don't think we do the most with what technology could do to actually implement apps or online platforms that could provide real-time assistance and guidance for individuals navigating the legal system. A lot of information is out there, but it's not all pulled together in an easy way to access. And sometimes you don't know you need that information until you need it. It's not something that you're aware of prior to needing it. So we could, use something around technology. Some people talked about some alternatives to the systems we have. I think that we probably don't do enough around mediation and restorative justice for some of the people that come into the legal system. And I think the other thing is that we are working hard to develop information that is accessible for people around their rights, especially when they're working through or uphold into a legal system. So accessible information is absolutely a must. Apart from that, the training and the education for legal professionals, for lawyers, police and judges, I think we could actually do a little bit more there. I'm really heartened to hear from corrections and from the police on all the things that they are doing. And I guess it's like everything. There are pockets of excellence all around the country. There's just a lack of consistency in terms of how things are interpreted and how things are implemented. But I personally feel positive. I personally feel optimistic that, we are moving the ball along the field, that we are getting closer to getting some things right now sorted. And yes, there are things that are going to take a lot longer. Thank you very much to all the panellists that have spoken today. I thoroughly have learned a great deal. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Tanya. Thank you for your kōrero around the question. We'll move on to Nan Jensen, and then we'll move into Q&A. Just a reminder for our panellists, you are able to answer the questions as they come through if we don't get to the questions in time. Nan.
Kia ora. Ko Nan Jensen taku ingoa. I just want to start by saying thank you for inviting me to this, because every speaker has just been so fascinating and my head is kind of exploding. So I hope I can stick to the notes that I've made here, because they've given me so many other thoughts. The question was about the justice system, and to me, that's the criminal justice system, and a lot of people have spoken about criminal justice. I practice disability law, that's what I call it, but I mostly do all areas of private law with a focus on the particular needs of disabled people and their families. And so I thought I broadened it to thinking about the legal system in general, and I won't talk about justice, criminal justice, because everyone's covered that. I do get a lot of people asking me about criminal issues, and I have to refer them elsewhere. One thing new lawyers find out is they want to do everything and they realize they can't. We have to specialize. So I do a lot of work with other groups. I'm on the board of Aotearoa Disability Law. and I work with Darren at Youth Law. And I'm also starting to look at doing some governance in some areas that I'm particularly interested in, and those are housing, employment, and safeguarding for disabled people. And the safeguarding is because I see so many people in my work who are being taken advantage of or abused. And it's quite terrifying to me. So what I've done is I've looked at some of the laws that we have, and I thought I'll just call out certain laws that I think are problematic in terms of preventing inclusion. And I want to talk in particular, Paul's talk and Darren's talk, and also want to address something Kate said, which I think is really relevant. I'll just start with the Human Rights Act. I think the Human Rights Act is problematic for us. That's a big one, but it has a big out in it because of the reasonable accommodation standard. So people think reasonable accommodation is an advantage we have. It's something we're entitled to. But what it does is it gives different types of organizations an out because they can say, well, we can't reasonably provide these accommodations, therefore we can discriminate. So right away, I have a bit of a problem with that act, and I apologize everybody who's been involved with that act. That's my view on it. Education and Training Act, way too easy for schools to refuse to enroll a disabled student. The disability funding system, that's a matter of policy, not law, but the funding system itself increases discrimination because if you don't have the funding, you're going to be treated differently than if you do. The ministry has powers under this act to force more inclusion, but they often refuse to exercise those powers. And there was also in the new act, or it's not so new anymore, there was a dispute resolution system put in place, which everyone had been asking for years and years, which would allow families who were concerned and want to make a complaint to go through an independent disputes resolution system. That system has never been funded, probably never will be, and therefore it's still very difficult for families to challenge decisions, particularly things like exclusion after a suspension. And I think that's a really big problem. The Protection of Personal and Property Rights Act, this one is under review, which is great. It's going to be better aligned with the convention, we hope. But there's not enough oversight of people who are appointed to act for others, either under a power of attorney. So if you're under an enduring power of attorney, there's no oversight and they're never reviewed. So if an attorney is abusing the person they're acting for, that can go on forever. Court orders are reviewed, but even then we don't know if that review is robust enough or often enough. And there's no training for people who are appointed into those roles. There needs to be training, or it needs to be possible that it can be a profession. So I'll call out a few more. I know we don't have a lot of time and I don't have a timer on, so you'll have to let me know. Recently it came to my attention. I mean, I was aware of it, but I just started thinking about it as a discrimination issue. We're talking about having more disabled people in leadership, disabled-led organizations. But the Trusts Act, the Companies Act, the Incorporated Societies Act, and the Charities Act all exclude certain people from holding officer roles, whatever that officer role is. So it might be a trustee or an officer of an incorporated society or a director, if they don't meet certain criteria. So if they need support with certain types of decisions, they're excluded from being in any of those leadership roles. To me, that is a really big barrier to including our disabled whānau. So I was particularly interested in Paul's talk where he talked about changes to legislation. I think Darren also mentioned it as well, and Kate, things that maybe could be done differently. I think the laws need to be prescriptive. They need to require certain actions. It's not good enough to say we suggest it or it should be, because people are not going to take action if they don't have to do something. So we need things like requiring certain types of housing with universal design. requiring businesses to hire disabled people. I think that that's something that at least a business of a certain size, because I don't think employment is going to happen just because we encourage it. Laws, we need the law about supported decision-making. Supported decision-making is very important. It's in the convention, but we don't have any oversight of the people who are going to be supporters. And I'm afraid that the people who now, I call them predators, who insert themselves into the lives of people and start exercising different kinds of abuse, the same thing could happen with supporters if we don't have training and some sort of mechanism of oversight. I've looked at a lot of pilot programs for supported decision-making around the world, and those always include oversight. I don't think it's going to happen in New Zealand because we don't want to pay taxes and we don't want to spend money on these things, but I think they're actually it's really important. I don't know if I still have time. The Social Security Act is another one. I think it's really unfair that disabled people who cannot work are acid tested at the same level as a non-disabled person who may just be temporarily unemployed. You can't save up any money at all ever without being penalized by the social security system. And I just think it's very unfair because there's a difference between someone who's unemployed for 6 months and needs a little bit of help and someone who can never save up money, because then how do they inherit from their families? Can I say one more thing and then I'll finish?
Yeah.
I just wanted to address what Kate said, because she was talking about law school. I'm autistic and I was diagnosed after I started practicing, but there are, I know of a couple of other autistic lawyers. It's really, really hard to even get past the Law Society and get approved. You kind of have to disclose that you're autistic, and I know people have had trouble getting not admitted, but getting approval to practice on own account. So these are all some examples of things that I think need to change. Kia ora and thank you.
Kia ora, Nan. Thank you for your kōrero around the question. We'll move into Q&A now, and I see our panelists have been furiously typing in the Q&A, answering some questions. I guess one of the questions I would want to ask our doers is how do our disabled whānau put into practice their own self-determination, and where can they go for support surrounding anything to do with the justice system? So how can our community practice their own self-determination?
Kia ora, it's Tania.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's not always easy because speaking to authority in particular can be difficult for people, and often it's being able to be clear about what you want. And people often can talk a lot about the issue that they have and how it's making them feel, but they often aren't really clear about what they want changed and what they would want to be different so that it would work for them. And so that is really a particular type of training. It's the sort of thing that my organisation does, and we have a national self-advocate advisor who runs that training, and we can also include family members who have had experience in speaking up. And People First also do a fantastic job of pointing people in the right direction and providing training. So hopefully that's of help.
I would like to see a lot more free advocacy available. I often get people coming to me wanting advocacy, and I really hate to have to charge lawyer fees. I don't think lawyers are always necessary. It can be an advocate. I think self-advocacy is a wonderful idea, but I've seen too many times where I've gone along with someone who's been trying to self-advocate, and then when I show up, I don't even have to say very much, and all of a sudden it changes the outcome. So often having an impartial support person advocate with the person who's trying to advocate for themselves, I think it really is important. regardless of that person's self-advocacy skills.
Kia ora, Darren. I think the answer to this question is complex but very interesting. The legal needs research shows that people don't go to lawyers and professionals for help with their legal problems. They turn to whānau and family and friends first. And then the research actually shows more people talk to their doctors about their legal problems than lawyers. It's because they go to doctors with stress and other health-related issues, and the doctor uncovers the fact that it's something else is going on in their lives that's causing these things. So I think we need to take advantage of that in a design context. And what I mean by that is provide resources to whānau and other agencies where disabled people are already engaging, not create another door for them to approach and come through. And I think that's particularly important in the legal setting, because the amount of resources for the type of support that Nan is talking about is extremely limited. There's just no funding really to meet the need in the community. And so we're much better off, I think, supporting the community with resources to advocate for itself and resolve problems early with the support of professionals. So yeah, I think it's a systems design challenge, but there's also an opportunity there by just starting where people already are.
Yeah, kia ora for that. I'm just looking into our Q&A here. We have a question here from Andrea. A big problem we face is reality. Lack of funding, resources, supports for professionals and their pay has impacted negatively on ensuring people have access to rights of goods and customer services. We have the laws and knowledge that we not accessible, but how do we really realistically look at fixing that? And we kind of just touched on that as well when we were just having the previous question I've asked. Hold on, sorry. And we've got 1 more minute left. So is any final comments or words of inspiration that you want to give out to everybody? I know we talked about collaboration, trying to work all together. It's looking really positive of all the changes that are happening, but was any final last inspirational words for our community? We'll start with Darren.
Unmuted myself. Yeah, Darren. We're Youth Law's involved in a program at the moment where we're designing a program for young people to actually raise their voice in the public discourse, to make sure that their voice is more present in the creation of laws. And I think that one of the key things I think all community sectors can focus on is talking into that public space, but not trying to appeal to the hearts of people. I think that collective voice from the sector, which talks about a fair Aotearoa instead of that appeals to the hearts of people. We spend a lot of time talking about the kind of facts and these types of things, which are really important for policy design, but ultimately it's political power that makes the difference, and it's mobilizing hearts that makes the difference in that space. So I think collectively that's something that we can be doing.
Kia ora. Tanya, any last comments, words of inspiration?
Only that somebody mentioned it earlier when the panelists were talking, and that's about allies. It might have been you, Bridget. There are lots of allies, and what I think would be wonderful is seeing how we could help people to become allies. I think a lot of people want to, but they don't know how, or they don't know where to start. So I think that that's something we could work on, is helping people to become allies.
And our last panel. And our last panelist, Nan.
Well, I was the person who labeled myself cynical, so I don't know if I have anything uplifting to say. I admire everybody for your patience. I'm not very patient, and I've been quite frustrated at the slow progress. But I think we need to really make it clear that we are a much bigger voting bloc than the politicians realize, and we need to find some way of getting that across. I mean, a lot of people have disabilities or become disabled during their lifetimes, and that needs to be understood. And the other misunderstanding is that we're not all poor. There are disabled people in families who the government should care about, because if they only care about people with money, then that's a misnomer to think that they can just ignore us because we're poor. So I just hope people will be persistent. The young ones will step up and be persistent and keep this going, because we have to make change.
Good. No, thank you, everybody. Thank you to our panelists. I'll hand it back over to Francesca. Oh, Frankie. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Frankie here. A lot of passionate and inspirational kōrero today, sharing with all of us. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us and being a part of this fantastic hui today. Thank you to Kimberly and Juliana. This takes a lot of effort from these wahine to put on this event for us. So thank you so much for all your hard work and what you do for us. A better world needs better leaders. E waka eke noa means we are all in this together, whānau. We're working to break down ableism and remove the barriers that prevent disabled people from fully participating in life. To do this effectively, Access Matters needs to understand the impact of initiatives like Kōrero for Change. There is a short survey in the chat for the audience. Please take 2 minutes to fill this out. Panelists, speakers, and moderators, you will receive a different survey link by email. Now I'll close with a karakia. Kia whakairia te tapu, kia wātia ai te ara, kia turu ki whakataha ai, kia turu ki whakataha ai, haumie huie taikie. Restrictions are moved aside so the pathways is clear to return to everyday activities. Mauri ora, go well, ka kite whānau.